I'm Tony LAMBRAIA, originally from New York City. Grew up in Queens, in Brooklyn area. Went into the Marine Corps at an early age. Then I got into law enforcement, and it started out in Rikers Island prison. Worked about 6 years in Rikers. Did about another 11 in Florida and in both corrections. Then I went to the street as a police officer. Then I was undercover narcotics and CID and SWAT, and I did a bunch of that, did a lot of training. Had my training company while I was doing that, where I was teaching police and military throughout the United States. Then went over to the federal side, worked for the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, started out as an instructor, got promoted to senior instructor, went to branch chief, and worked my way up, take over counterterrorism and tactics. So Rikers Island is probably up there with one of the toughest prisons in the United States. I would say that what's different about Rikers Island is it's a jail with about 18,000 prisoners on it, and it's continuously cycling out new people. So it's interesting. I say back in the 80s when I first started there, we were running about 3,000 stabbings a year, riots continuously, and we called it gladiator school. So this, every day you went to work, you fought. So yeah, Rikers was fun. It was an interesting place. When you're working in prisons, the difference is that you're in there and you got 120 inmates and you. So you don't have your buddy Marines and you don't have anybody else to back you up, at least not for a while. So Marine Corps was awesome. And a lot of good people, a lot of good friends there. I started out in the martial arts when I was probably about 8 years old. I started out in jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu. And then I worked through my career and, military law enforcement, and I continued to train. I jumped around into judo, did a little boxing, a little Muay Thai, some jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, trained a couple of fighters for MMA, all along using that experience to try and train military and law enforcement. I was a combatives instructor. I was the lead instructor for the academy, the defensive tactics, and I was for the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. I was the senior instructor over all defensive tactics for the feds. We trained everybody from the Secret Service, ATF, US Marshals, basically all the federal agencies. And I was over all of the combatives for them. I would say that I am a training junkie because I love, you're always a student. You never stop learning. In this career, after being here for so long, you always find a few new things that you can pick up from just about anybody. And, good, bad, or indifferent, you always have to continue to learn. And there's a lot of good trainers out there. There's a lot of good martial artists out there. There's just, there's people out there that you can pick things up from. So I always look forward to doing that. My introduction to UTM was, I was actually working, my last job was a deputy director for the Southeast. And so while I was working there, I was still running my company. And as I was running my company, I was doing training on the side, teaching combatives, teaching edge weapons defense, teaching ground defense, teaching shooting. And I got approached by somebody in the UTM organization, and they asked me to come down and meet with the owner and talk to them. And we kind of hit it off, and we got along very well. He's a great guy, and we started, talking a little bit. A couple of months went by. I got a phone call. He asked me to come back down, and he asked me if I would be willing to come over and take over all their sales and training for the United States. And actually brought my company, which was Phoenix RBT Solutions, over there. We started to do training throughout the United States. We started to develop further the UTM system. And I say the system because it's not just ammunition and conversions, it's also about how to apply them and how to put them into your tactics, into your combatives, how to use them across the board in your training. So we've introduced that piece of it from UTM. And then we've developed that piece of it, that training. So as that kind of developed out, my company kind of rolled into UTM, and new owners have come in since then. And I stood as part of that company, and I'm now the vice president running all of their sales and training. So UTM Worldwide started out servicing the military. They started out back in 2006, landing a huge military contract, which was the CCMCK, which is the Close Combat Missions Capabilities Kit. And it was basically supposed to be every soldier would have a UTM bolt, a mask, and they would take it, put it into their pack. They would go out to the field, and then whenever they were going to train, they would just pull that out, they would get the ammunition, and they could train anywhere. So that's how the company started. The company started with the U.S. military. We're the largest supplier of training ammunition for the U.S. military currently. About 200 million rounds is what we've sold to date. So that's how it started. Then it started to develop out, obviously, from the military into the law enforcement community. And we started to compete in that arena. There was a lot of value to it. We started to develop the products around what the law enforcement needs were. We've made some really good products. We've made some really good gains in that area, plus the training piece of it. And just recently, we felt like there was a gap. Nobody was allowing the civilian market to actually get this product. And there are so many deficiencies in training right now. You can't draw from the holster when you're sitting on a range because they'll throw you off the range. But with UTM products, because they're so safe, you can do that. So there are so many things that you can do. We're selling a home shooting kit where actually you can take your gun, convert it, and shoot in your own home and practice. You don't have to go to the range. So there's so many things that can be done right now. So we just felt like there was a need out there. And people talk about people who are, gun nuts or whatever. This is about safety. This is about training people the right way, being responsible gun owners and understanding exactly what it means to know how to handle a firearm. And that's what UTM does. So the question comes up all the time about, is it safe? And UTM goes to great lengths to make the products completely safe. There is live round lockout on all conversion kits. So if you convert your firearm over to a UTM gun, it's live round lockout. It's the head spacing on the pistols, and on the rifles, it's a rim fire. It turns from a center fire to a rim fire. So all of the system is designed around a fail-safe technology so that somebody can't make a mistake. They can't introduce a live round and then it shoots. So we get that question a lot about what's the safety features. It's very safe once you convert it over, and we have blue indicators on the guns to make sure that once you convert it over, you can very easily identify it's a blue gun. It's a UTM conversion, and it's completely safe. The reason why UTM has come as far as they have is because they're basically the German technology for the machines that actually make this. Bieler was a parent company, and Bieler of Germany, Bieler of America, they actually make the machines that manufacture the bullets, and they manufacture the conversion kits. We have some of the best engineers in the world working on the conversion kits and the rounds. So one of the things that we do is we run completely clean. So we have driving band technologies that run through it. There's no plastic scraping. It actually runs a lot cleaner than live ammo, and it runs a lot cleaner than any other product on the market that even related to this type of technology. So you have reliability, running clean, accuracy is great because of the technology, and we have the only two-stage primer system to control and make consistent velocity. So some of the benefits of actually using UTM versus just being on a linear range. Think about this is that you can train 360 degrees. Life is 360 degrees, the environment, behind you, in front of you, on the side. So you get an opportunity to actually train like you live and like you fight. So the benefit of actually training force on force is that it's stress inoculation. Listen, the analogy that I would give to most people is that you wouldn't learn how to box by just hitting a heavy bag and never spar, and then throw somebody in a ring and expect them to be a good fighter. They wouldn't have the timing. They wouldn't be able to keep up because the other person actually has the timing from actually fighting. What we do is we actually put people on a linear range to shoot paper targets, and that's all they ever get a chance to do. And then we throw them in and we make them gunfighters, and they have to actually fight with a stress and all the things that come into play, the 360-degree environments, all the other features that actually would come about now are coming down on them, and they don't get a chance to do that anywhere except for force on force. And so now you can do that stress inoculation. You can see actually what you're doing in that 360-degree environment. So I wouldn't put a boxer in the ring without having them fight, and I wouldn't have somebody get into a gun battle without actually having them get into a gun battle in training. And our technology is the only technology to allow you to do that safely. You go to UTM Worldwide, you can go to our website, you can visit the training site, there's product information on there, and we have training tips. So if you go to UTM Worldwide, find all the information you possibly would need.